Hi lovies, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you clicked on today's video. We are going to be talking about all the books that I want to read in the month of November, which is crazy. We're not going to get too much into it, but it's November, guys. Absolutely crazy that we are already getting to the end of 2024, but we are quickly approaching holiday season. I think November and December are probably my favorite months to really hunker down and read a lot, mainly because the weather is getting chillier and I just want to stay inside, drink some hot cocoa, and read a lot. We are going to be talking about all the books that I'm hoping to read in the month of November. We do have the return of the TBR jar. I haven't let my TBR jar pick my reads in a hot minute. I think it's been a few months since we did a TBR jar video, so I thought it'd be really fun to bring out an old friend and let her pick some of my reads for the month of November. I do have 4 books that I did pick out already, and I'm gonna let my TBR jar pick out the other 4. If you know, you know. There's so many amazing releases coming out in November, and I am so excited for all of them. I have them all pre-ordered. I am ready. They're on my TBR. But first, we're gonna pick out 4 prompts to add to my November TBR, and then we'll talk about all the books. I did add a few new prompts into the jar just because I feel like the other ones were getting a little stale, so I added some new ones in there to kind of spice it up a little bit. And yeah, we're gonna pick out 4 and see where the wind takes us, see where November takes us. Starting with prompt number 1. Let's see what the TBR jar picks for us. It's in the TBR jar's hands. Okay, we have our first prompt. Okay, let's see what she wants us to read. Okay, that's a little exciting. One of the new prompts I put in my jar was Sophie Lark. I put a specific author into my TBR jar mainly because I love Sophie Lark. She's one of my favorite dark romance authors, mainly because I read the Brutal Birthright series and I ate that series up. I devoured it. It was amazing. I have so many other amazing books by her that I haven't read yet, and I just loved the Brutal Birthright series so much. I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm gonna love all her other books because I really enjoy her writing style. So our first prompt for November is a Sophie Lark book, which I also feel like is perfect because it's dark romance. And I feel like because we're going into chilly and cozy season, it's always so fun to pick up a good dark romance. I've also been talking about how I want to read at least one more good dark romance before the year ends because I haven't had too much good luck with dark romance this year. I don't know what happened. I kind of fell off a little bit. I just know Sophie Lark is going to change that for me. Let's pick our second prompt. Let's see what she is. Ooh, okay. I actually have a few books that I can definitely pick from this. So our second prompt of November is Probably Smut. I'm a part of Probably Smut Book Club. They do some of the cutest romance special editions out there. I highly recommend if you haven't heard of them before. So for our second book, I'm going to pick a Probably Smut Book Club book that I haven't read yet, and I definitely have a pile. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Also adding in to the dark romance theme that we kind of have going on, because most of the books I have from Probably Smut are definitely a dark romance, I think. Third prompt. Let's see. We're cruising, guys. We are cruising. Okay, this is fun. This is a cover prompt. So we're looking for flowers on the cover of a book, which I feel like is going to be very easy because I have a ton of books with flowers on them, but at the same time very hard because I then have to pick from all those books with flowers on them. Love that though. Usually flowers on book covers are my favorite, and they're usually like the prettiest book covers in my opinion. 3 prompts down, 1 to go. It's gonna be our last one of November. I feel like we've picked some really good ones. I'm super excited. 4th and final prompt for the month of November, and it is to continue a book series that I am currently in the middle of, which is not too hard at all because I am quite literally in the middle of like 14 or 15 book series, so we have quite the collection to choose from. Let's do that. So I landed on these books for our TBR jar prompts. I'm super excited about all of them. We're going to talk about the books and new releases I picked for November before my TBR jar, and then we'll hop into the books that my TBR jar picked. I have 3 books here that I picked out, and then we have a ton of new releases that are coming out in November as well that I am super excited about. First up, we have The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Lori Gilmore. This is book 2 in the Dream Harbor series. I read book 1 in October. It was adorable. don't get me wrong, but I felt like there really wasn't a lot to the storyline. I feel like there wasn't a lot of substance, but it still gave off all those cozy fall vibes, so I definitely want to continue on in the series. This is all about Hazel and Noah though, and basically what happens is Hazel is finding all these secret messages and notes in between the pages of books at the bookstore, and she's trying to uncode them and figure out what they mean, but she ends up asking help of the local fisherman who is Noah, and it turns out that Noah has had a crush on Hazel for the longest time, so obviously he says yes to helping her on this fun little scavenger hunt. That's basically what the book is going to be about. After reading book 1, I don't expect too much from this book, but I am excited for the cozy vibes and the cute little romance that we get. The next book I picked out is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. This is so beautiful. This is a special edition from Fairy Lou. I am living for these edges. You can't tell me these aren't the prettiest book edges you've ever seen. I literally am obsessed with them. I think they're absolutely lovely, and the whole design of this book is just so beautiful. But Howl's Moving Castle, this is actually being carried over from my October TBR. I really want to read this book. I'm a huge fan of the film, and I just feel like it's going to give off all the magical and cozy vibes for the fall time. If you've never heard of this before, it's basically about a girl who gets a spell placed on her by a witch, and she doesn't know how to break the spell until she hears that this magical wizard that lives in the hills can possibly help her break the curse, and everybody's kind of like, don't do it. Don't ask him for help, because basically it will come at a price, and she doesn't listen, and she goes to Howl's Moving Castle to ask him to help her break the curse, and it's a whole magical adventure. It's probably one of my favorite films I've ever seen, to be completely honest. I don't know what it is about that film, but I fell madly in love with it, so I can only imagine I'm going to love the book just as much, because usually when they take books and turn them into movies or TV shows, they leave so much out. So I'm very excited to read this. Next we have Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. This is book 1 in the Vancouver Storm series, also being carried over from October. I'm not giving up on this book. I'm reading it before the year ends, guys. I swear it. I have to read this book. I don't know why I haven't been in the mood to read like a good hockey romance, and I think it's because I went on a streak of reading so many at once, so I've kind of been a little tired of them. But I feel like because we're in hockey season, it's getting colder out, we're gonna start going ice skating, it's perfect to pick this book up. So we have this on the list for the month of November. It's a series and an author that I hear so many good things about. Everybody tells me that I have to read this book and I have to read book 2, so I'm super excited to give it a shot. It's all about Jamie and Pippa. Jamie is an NHL goalie and Pippa is basically his assistant, I think, and yeah, I can only imagine what happens between the hockey goalie and his really cute assistant. Now moving on to the new releases that are coming out this month that I am so excited to read. First up we have Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. This is book 3 in the Rebel Blue Ranch novels. Love this series. Read book 1 and book 2 in the beginning of this year. Obsessed, devoured it. Could not recommend it enough if you haven't read them yet. They are the cutest small town cowboy romances I think I've ever read, aside from the Chestnut Spring series. Each book though follows a different couple, and they're all interconnected standalones, and I am so excited for book 3 because both of our main characters we have seen so much of throughout book 1, throughout book 2, and it's gonna be an enemies to lovers. And in book 1 and book 2, you get little scenes, little breadcrumbs of how much they despise each other. And I just know it's going to be an amazing enemies to lovers. I think it could be a 5-star, to be completely honest. I'm not trying to jinx it. I really feel like book 3 can be a 5-star for me. It's gonna be amazing. I can't wait. But it's basically an enemies to lovers romance between the older brother of the main character from book 1 and her best friend. I feel like it's gonna be so amazing. I'm so excited. Next up we have Skyshade by Alex Astor. This is the 3rd book in the Lightlark series, and if you know, you know. Obsessed with Lightlark, obsessed with Nightbane. 2 of my favorite fantasy books I have definitely read this year. They were both 5 stars. I read book 2 in October, and it was probably one of my favorite books of the month. It was so good, guys. The romance and the adventure and the magic, and wow, what a beautiful series and what a beautiful world. I think Alex Astor is probably one of my favorite authors that I discovered this year, and I'm so excited for the 3rd book to come out because the way that book 2 ends off, Why do fantasy authors do this to us? Why do they have to leave us off on the craziest cliffhangers? I'm just so nervous to see what happens with it because I know how I want it to go. But I'm so nervous that she's going to make it go the other way. So we'll see what happens. Then we have the very long-awaited Hexed by Emily McIntyre. This is her final installment in the Never After novels, and I'm so excited for this book because I called it. If you were here when I read Crossed, I told you guys her final book was going to be a Little Mermaid reimagining, and it's a Little Mermaid reimagining. I am so stinking excited. I think it's going to be such a fun read. I just know it's going to be so much fun because if you're not familiar with the Never After novels, they're basically fairy tale reimaginings, but the villains in our favorite classic fairy tales are the main characters. Emily McIntyre makes you fall in love with these villains that you just grew up not liking. I think that's what makes her books so amazing and fun and so different in my opinion. Our main character is loosely based off of Ursula from The Little Mermaid. I believe our MMC is going to be loosely based off of Eric from The Little Mermaid, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I like the twist that she puts on these classic fairy tales. Crossed, which is book 5 in the series, is easily my favorite book, which is crazy because when it came out I didn't think I was gonna like it because it's loosely based off of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Definitely not my favorite Disney movie, but I ended up loving the book so much. It was one of my favorites I've ever read. If you like Disney, if you like fairy tales, and you find yourself always rooting for the villains, if you like the bad guys, those books are made for you. Moving on to our TBR jar books, I am so excited because I do feel like we got very lucky with our TBR jar this month. They're all cozy books. They're all perfect for the fall time going into winter, and yeah, I'm super excited. We're gonna start off with Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. This is a book I've been hearing so many amazing things about, and this is our book cover with flowers on it. At first I wasn't thinking of picking this one. I had so many other books in mind, and then I saw this last second and I've just been seeing so many people rave about it, and I was like, I feel like I should give it a chance. And I feel like it's also perfect for fall time because it is like a romantasy book. From what I've heard, it kind of reminds me of Caraval, but maybe on a darker type of scale. So our main character in this is Ophelia, and her mother unfortunately passes away, and when she does, Ophelia is left with all of her debt. It's a little crazy, but Ophelia's sister decides to enter into the game of Phantasma to hopefully pay off the debt. Crazy, because when you enter into this game, people rarely make it out alive. So obviously Ophelia follows after her. She wants to save her and protect her, and once they're in the crazy house and game of Phantasma, they find that the only way to get out alive is to win. Ophelia faces different challenges every single day. There's monsters, there's magic, there's all this crazy stuff. In the midst of it all, Ophelia makes an alliance with a stranger in the game, and she doesn't know what she's going to do because she feels like she's losing her heart to this mysterious person, and she's supposed to be saving herself and her sister. So this is going to be such a fun read. I can already tell I'm going to love it because it just seems like the type of read that I'd really like and devour. It's giving Caraval vibes, but darker, deadlier, more intense. When I read little things from this book, I'm picturing the scenes from a haunted mansion. I don't know why, but that's just the vibe I'm kind of getting. So a book cover with flowers on it. We have Phantasma, continuing a book series that I'm currently in the middle of. We have Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. I thought this would be the perfect book to pick up because it's the perfect time of year to be reading this series, and it's also only a duology, so once I read this book, the series is complete and I can mark it off my list. I have been putting this book off for far too long, and it is mainly because I heard so many weird reviews kind of about it, and I just love Divine Rivals so very much that I didn't want to read this and ruin what I read in book 1. So I've kind of been living in a world where book 1 is the only book and that's it, which is crazy because book 1 literally leaves off on a awful cliffhanger. So while very nervous, I am still excited to jump into this world again, see what happens. I think I talked about this a little bit on my channel, but I did actually start this book when when it came out, and I just decided to put it down because I wasn't really vibing with it at the time, but I'm ready to pick it up again and hopefully finish it this time around. Iris and Roman, we're gonna see what happens to them in this book. I hear a lot of people say that it revolves a lot more around the politics and the war, which I think will be really interesting. We have our probably smut book club pick. I picked out Whistleblower by Kate Cove just because I really like the cover of this. I just think it's really cool looking. I like the colors. I like the dark vibes it's giving off. This book is all about Eden and Link, and Link is basically like the best assassin there is and the deadliest, so everyone's kind of intimidated by him, obviously. And then Eden, I think, works alongside assassins. She does something involved with the assassins, but basically it's a romance between the two of them, and it kind of makes me nervous because it kind of gives off like Haunting Adeline vibes, and I didn't like that book, so I'm hoping I'm wrong and it's nothing like it, but I'm excited to give it a try. It seems like a really fun and different type of dark romance that I'm typically used to, so probably smut book pick of the month. And then the last book we have is The Sinner's Duet by Sophie Lark. This is my Sophie Lark book pick, and I am so excited to give this a try. I picked this one out specifically because it's a beautiful cover, but it's also recommended by so many other people. They rave about this, and I feel like it's a book that I'm going to be obsessed with. So this is my Sophie Lark pick. The playlist of the book is also incredible. This is actually Larry's version, and I'm obsessed with all these songs, so I feel like it's gonna make the book so much better listening to them while reading. The man who never cared about anyone is fixated on the girl nobody ever cared about. In some twisted way, they're made for each other. This book does sound very similar to Haunting Adeline, which makes me a little bit nervous, but because I'm familiar with Sophie Lark and her writing style, I feel like I might like this a lot more compared to Haunting Adeline. Haunting Adeline was just, I don't know what it was about that book, but I couldn't do it. So hopefully this one ends up being better. Those are all the books that are on my November TBR. I'm super excited for all of them. I think they're all great picks for the month, for the fall season. I ended up picking out 9 books in total, and that's just because I had to add in the hockey romance because I need to read book 1 of the Vancouver Storm series before this year's over, and I'm really trying to push myself. So those are all the books that I'm hoping to read in the month of November though. Let me know down below in the comments what's on your November TBR. What are some cozy books that you're excited to read this month? But with all that being said, with all of my rambling being done, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you had fun, and I'll see you in the next one.